News 8 meteorologist Michelle Poedel is joining us now to answer one of your questions in our Ask Michelle segment. What do you have today?
Well, today I have a question about the moon. So it's not always about weather. Today it's more science-based. This comes from Kathy via Facebook, and she says, you mentioned last week that this month's full moon is the harvest moon. Well, where do the full moons get their nicknames?
That's a great question.
Yeah, a really great question, because we mention them once a month when we have a full moon. So I did a little bit of research, and these names go all the way back to the Native Americans before it was actually the United States, and the tribes kept track of the seasons by giving distinct names to each reoccurring full moon. And there were some variations in the moon names, but generally the names were current among the Algonquin tribes, and even the European settlers also followed this custom and made up some of their own names as well. So I'll go through a couple of the examples. I'm not going to go through all 12, otherwise we'd be here for a while. The first one, I'll start with January. It's the full wolf moon. Now, this got its name by the fact that in the cold, deep snow of midwinter, the hungry wolf packs would howl at the moon outside the Indian villages.
Okay.
So, you always see those pictures of the wolf howling at the moon.
There you go.
The next one I picked was March. It's the full worm moon. Now, this comes because the temperatures begin to warm, usually. The ground thaws after a cold winter, and the earthworm casts appear, and that's a sign that the robins have returned. Now, the March full moon has a couple different names. This is the most common one, but the northern tribes called March's full moon the full crow moon because the cawing of the crows signaled the end of winter, or the cawing of the crows, I should say, signaled the end of winter. Also called the full sap moon because it's time to tap the maple trees, and also the full crust moon because the snow cover oftentimes in the spring becomes crusted from thawing during the day and then freezing at night. All right, the next one is June. It's the full strawberry moon, and this name is universal among the Algonquin tribe, and it's because of the short strawberry season, which comes each year in the month of June.
That one makes sense.
That one makes a lot of sense. Okay, and then finally, the full harvest moon. This is September's full moon, which we just had last week. Now, this is the full moon closest to the autumnal equinox, the beginning of fall. So in 2 years out of 3, this full moon happens in September, but sometimes it happens in October, depending on when fall begins, because it does between a couple days, depending on when it starts. Also, depending on when the full moon happens within that month. Sometimes this full moon could be in October. And at the peak of harvest, farmers can work late thanks to that lighting of the moon. So that's how that got its name, the full harvest moon, because the bright moon, farmers were out to stay.
So you can actually have a full harvest moon in October if it all falls into place?
Yep, but this year it is in September because we had the full moon last week and fall begins this coming Tuesday.
See, I need to keep this for weather quiz cheat sheets.
I should. I should write them all down for you.
I have that right. Okay, well, if you have a question that you would like to ask Michelle.
Well, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at News 8 Michelle. Otherwise, you can post a question to our Facebook page, News 8 This Morning, our Storm Team 8 weather page, or you can find my page, WKBT Michelle Poedel.
All right, thanks, Michelle. We've got